Welcome along to another video in the Army List Analysis series. We're continuing with late Antiquity, and today we are looking at the Visigoth 419 AD army with Byzantine 551 AD allies. Now, I've decided to take the Byzantine allies because you just get a lot of options. If you only take the base build, you've essentially only really got Warbands, some noble cav, and I think maybe some maybe noble lancers perhaps, and some skirmishers. It's a very limited list, but when you take out the Byzantines as allies, you just get tons and tons and tons of options, all their different kind of lancers, the veteran Byzantine lancers, expert armoured horse archers, which I really like, armoured noble lancers, and even with the infantry you get all the Legio Comitatensis and the dismounted armoured lancers. So you get a lot of options, and massed archers as well, and so on. So although I just did a video recently on Byzantine list, and the problem really overall with a lot of their units is they're too expensive, but when you can kind of pick and choose a little bit, some of their units are good, and you don't have to take all of them. So I think probably overall, in my opinion, it's best to take out some of the Byzantine units with you. We've got a warband army for infantry, but we've got lancers to back them up. So I think, this is a little bit of what I call a sleeper army, really. Maybe people would take out Byzantines before it, or the Sassanid Persians, or the Arab city, Romans, Palmyran, all those kind of armies seem to be more popular than this one. Germanic horse tribes, those kind of armies. But I really quite like this combination of warband and lancers. I think in LA that could be pretty punchy, pretty awesome, really, because you've got the impact foot. As I've mentioned before, warbands are actually probably better in LA than they are in classical, because they're not up against pikes, they're not up against hoplites and veteran spear. They're up against average to poor infantry. A lot of armies don't have that much infantry, and it's not that good. Sassanid foot and so on, Arab foot, your standard kind of infantry just gets hammered by warbands. So when you've got 10, we've got 10 warband units. Plus, I've taken the dismounted armor noble lancers at 72, but they're superior armored offensive spear, so they will really help us out as well. And I've got one irregular foot, so we've got 12 infantry plus all of these lancers. Lancers are and noble cavalry, it's about 15, so that's quite a combination there. When I look back at the armies I've been looking at, we just don't get that. The Pictish army, we had about 17 infantry, but we didn't have any cav with that army. We only had the Celtic chariots. Arab city, okay, it's got elephants, but probably overall we're slightly better because we've got lancers against their Vedu Cav, which are the light lancers, and their infantry just doesn't stand up to the warbands, the Arab foot. Bosporans, they've only got 2 legionnaires, some imitation legionnaires. It's fairly even. It's fairly mediocre legionnaires, but their legionnaire units are just not as large as a warband, and they've only got 2 of the really good legionnaires. So again, I'd give us the slight advantage on infantry, and then we've got an advantage with cav, because the Bosporan list, I had 10 cav, and we've got 15 here. And most of it Lancers plus Noble Cav. So this is a nice combination. We've got some really good units. We've got the Noble Cavalry, which I've got at the back. Now I think this would be in my top 10 Noble Cavalry because it's only 44. Okay, not Lancers, but they are superior quality. So most of the time they survive impact against enemy cav, and then they often have an advantage, or at least evens against better cavalry because of their quality. So they are a bargain at 44. They really are, and we can take 6 of them. Now the Byzantine Launchers, I do want to say one thing about them. I've been a little bit dismissive because of their price and armor not being so great compared to quality. But what I will say is that they are bow. They can actually fire away at enemy cavalry, which I haven't mentioned. So that can be very useful. And if you've got a few of them together firing away at enemy cav, you can often disrupt a unit before impact. So they are actually quite useful. I wouldn't take loads and loads out, but 2 or 3 of them in combination with Lancers and Noble Cav can be a nice combo. So actually they can be really useful. Also, expert armoured horse archers, some of my favourite units in the game. I've talked about them in other videos. They are fantastic because they're armoured and they're superior quality. So, as I remember it, even in melee against cataphracts, they're only 50 down. And that's cataphracts. So if they survive impact, which they often do, they are awesome units. They're usually up against most cav units because they're superior and armoured. You know, Byzantine Lancers are only above average and armoured. Noble Lancers are not armoured, and Noble Cavs are not armoured. And so they are going to be an advantage against most cavalry. And if they can fire away, a lot of the time, you know, even one unit, a volley, it can cause around 20 casualties. So if you've got 2 or 3 together, you're going to cause 40 to 60 casualties in one turn on a cavalry unit. And when cavalry is only around 240, that's quite a large percentage of casualties before impact and melee. So they are excellent. Overall, I just think this is a really nice army. There's a lot to like about it. Flexibility, I was messing around a little bit. If we took out a Byzantine Lancer, we could add another Warband. So you want a little bit more infantry. We can also take out dismounted Noble Lancer as well. So 2 decent infantry units, you know, we could add. So that's nice. If you wanted more skirmishes, we have only got 5. A lot of armies might have 10, around 10. We could maybe take out the irregular foot and maybe 2 of the Noble Cav. And then you could add 4 more skirmishers. So we've just taken out 2 of the Noble Cav, an irregular foot, and we've got 10 skirmishers now. And 9, sorry. We've got 9 skirmishers, which is a nice number. And we've still got 11 infantry and about 13 cav. So maybe this is the kind of build that many players would use, because a lot of players do like to take a fair number of skirmishers. Now, warbands, especially the better players, what they say about warbands is they don't like them because large size, actually, even though it's an advantage in the sense of the combat modifier, so when you're in melee, after 2, 3, 4, 5 turns, you'll get an advantage because of the size of your unit. When they do rout, they take a large percentage of your army with them, and so on the rout percentage, it's a disadvantage, because even if you lose just 2 or 3 of these units, it's going to be a large percentage overall of your army. So some players don't like warbands for that. But I have to say, thinking about it more positively, this combination, just warband and lancers, I think is quite nice. In my other videos, I was mentioning that against your average infantry, Sassanid foot, Arab foot, they're 110 up. Even the Pictish spear, they're 110 up on impact. So they were disrupting quite a lot of infantry on impact. It was actually around 70% of the time in one of my tests. They were disrupting those kind of units. Obviously, legionnaires, mediocre legionnaires, dismounted lancers, it wouldn't be so good. Spear as well, they might have a little bit more of a disadvantage, but against average swordsman heavy foot, they are really good. So my rating, I'm going to go B. I'd like to take this army out. I think I'm going to take it out in a friendly actually soon, just to see how they do. Are they as good as I think? It would be nice to have some more spearmen. We've only got the more expensive type. Although saying that, we do have the if you're up against cavalry heavy armies, we can take out 2 of the Legio Comitatensis, which are really good against cavalry, not so good against infantry. But then when you've got so many warband units, you're not relying on them as you are with the Byzantine list. They could be really useful. Even the sub-Roman foot, maybe take out a few warbands. You could add some of those units if you're going up maybe against cav heavy armies. Just some ideas. You do have some horse archers, but they are the more expensive kinds. We don't have the really cheap kinds. 48 for Byzantine flankers. It's quite expensive. That's our cheapest of the light horse archers. We don't have any around 40. We don't have many javelin horse either, only 1. So that's a slight disadvantage. It would be nice to have another expert armored horse archers because they're excellent, but we've only got 2. And it would be nice as well to have some more noble lancers. We've only got 2, but we've got a load of noble cav, so we can't complain too much. And we have now got 9 skirmishers. It would be nice if we had a few more of the cheaper skirmishers. And even some of massed archers. We've only got access to 2. Even if we had the option to take 4 to 5, sometimes in a lot of rough ground against cav heavy armies, it'd be great to take out some more archers, and we don't have that option. But I think around a B would be a good rating for me. If you've taken out this army in the league or you played against them, please let us know. But yeah, that's about it. It's a B from me. I will give them a go and test them out. And Merry Christmas to everyone, and see you again soon.